Sarah Carter unearths a letter that will bring Brennan and Harry Reid to their knees by Amy Moreno for TruthFeedNews.com. It probably won't surprise anyone that Harry Reid has his hands in the deep state plot to bring down President Trump. Investigative journalist Sarah Carter has uncovered a sinister relationship between the former senator and disgraced former CIA Director John Brennan that starts with a shadowy letter from Harry Reid to disgraced former FBI Director James Comey. From Sarah Carter, in the late summer of 2016, then FBI Director James Comey had already been advised that former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid would be sending him a letter asking to investigate allegations that President Donald Trump's campaign had colluded with Russia, according to documents obtained by Congress. The letter, which was written several days after former CIA Director John Brennan met with Reid, has raised a speculation among some congressional investigators that Brennan privately briefed Reid about the dossier. A government watchdog group is now seeking to verify what Brennan knew about the unverified anti-Trump dossier, which was compiled by former British spy Christopher Steele. Making the matter more precarious was that Reid's letter was leaked several days later to the New York Times in the lead-up to the presidential election. The letter stated evidence of a direct connection between the Russian government and Donald Trump's campaign continues to mount. Documents obtained by Congress revealed senior bureau officials were already expecting Reid's letter even before the senator wrote it, according to congressional sources. Brennan, whose security clearance was pulled last week by President Trump, is now a contributor for MSNBC. Brennan denies any allegations suggesting that he knew about the dossier before December of 2016. In a recent interview with SarahCarter.com, Brennan's former Deputy Chief of Staff Nick Shapiro said Brennan had briefed Reid as part of the Gang of Eight briefings on Russia's interference in the election. Reid asked Brennan if he could include some of the assessment the Gang of Eight was briefed on in the letter he was preparing to send to Comey. According to Shapiro, Brennan declined, saying he could not authorize sharing the information on Russian election meddling. Reid was not available for comment. Shapiro told SarahCarter.com that Brennan did not know about the contents of the dossier until December of 2016 and only briefed the Gang of Eight on the intelligence community assessment of Russian interference in the election. He only even knew it existed because he heard members of the media bring it up. How convenient, right? He had heard it existed but didn't see the contents, hadn't seen the contents, hadn't been briefed on it, knew nothing about it until December of 2016. Again, it wasn't a CIA document, Shapiro said. He only even knew it existed because he heard members of the media bring it up. Shapiro referred to previous testimony offered by Comey and said Comey has said publicly that he wanted to make sure President Obama and Trump knew about the dossier. Comey decided to attach it to the intelligence community assessment. There was even talk of indulging it as part of the intelligence community assessment, but Brennan and Clapper, in fact, were the ones who didn't allow the dossier to be part of that, and they didn't allow that because they said the information wasn't verified intelligence, and that wasn't what the intelligence community assessment was about. Representative Mark Meadows, who has been at the forefront of the congressional inquiry, said that the documents obtained by the oversight committees continue to raise serious questions as to the involvement and role of other government agencies in the FBI's investigation into alleged Russia collusion with the Trump campaign. One of the concerning trends in the documents as they are produced to Congress is that we're seeing more and more of a role of agencies beyond the FBI that were potentially coordinating with the Russian investigation, said Meadows. New documents that have been received would indicate that the FBI was fully aware that Harry Reid received a brief or the details of the unverified dossier prior to August 30th of 2016. What we do now know is that Director Brennan gave a briefing to Harry Reid on August 25th, 2016, and within days of that briefing, Harry Reid sent a letter to Director Comey asking him to look into the Trump-Russia connection. I'm concerned that we have multiple government agencies using technology and intelligence gathering abilities for perhaps political purposes. Meadows warned that any time that it becomes normal for the intelligence community and the FBI to surveil and gain information for political purposes, we have passed a point where our confidence in the most powerful agencies in the federal government can be viewed without some degree of suspicion. I'm concerned that we have multiple government agencies using technology and intelligence gathering abilities for perhaps political purposes. The deeper we dig, the more troubling it becomes, because we see there are political motivations within the FBI and the DOJ. Everybody is entitled to a non-biased investigation of the facts, and yet we're seeing multiple examples where bias has actually affected the investigation. Either they firmly believe they are correct in their assessment of Donald Trump's Russia ties, or they are working overtime to discredit the administration in fear of what will come out, Meadows added. That's what they're fearing, what's going to come out. In May of 2017, Brennan testified before the House Intelligence Committee that the dossier was not included in the intelligence community's assessment of Russia's meddling in the 2016 election, stating that it was not in any way used as the basis for the intelligence community assessment. You know that's a lie. However, he was later contradicted by former NSA Director Mike Rogers and former DNI Director James Clapper. Both officials noted that some parts of the dossier were used in the intelligence assessment. Rogers, however, did not agree with the CIA's assessment that the Russians interfered with the election in an effort to aid President Trump, saying that there was not significant sourcing to verify those claims. Despite Brennan's denial of the allegations, Judicial Watch filed a FOIA lawsuit in June for Brennan communications with Reid. It has raised questions as to whether or not it was Brennan who briefed Reid on the dossier's contents when the two met privately August 25, 2016, and actually shared information about the dossier. By the time Brennan had met with Reid, the former CIA director had already briefed the Gang of Eight on Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. Several days later, on August 27th, Reid had sent the letter to Comey asking him to investigate disturbing reports suggesting other methods Russia is using to influence the Trump campaign and manipulate it as a vehicle for advancing the interests of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Yeah, that's all they have to write. A bunch of lies. Reid then alludes, without naming former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, who was a plant by the FBI and DOJ, in his letter stating that the advisor met with a high-ranking sanctioned individuals while in Moscow in July of 2016, well after Trump became the presumptive Republican nominee. 2 days after Comey got the letter, Reid was leaked to the New York Times and published. Congressional official with knowledge of the documents and communications said what's more troubling is that there appears to be a coordination between Director Brennan's briefing with Harry Reid, the letter coming from who was then the majority leader of the Senate to Director Comey, and Director Comey's acknowledgement that he was expecting the inquiry from then Senator Harry Reid. The biggest question that remains is how much involvement did Director Brennan and his agency have with regards to the Russia collusion investigation? And did the FBI and CIA decide to share information as it related to a predicate for the FBI investigation? The congressional office added. However, Judicial Watch filed a FOIA lawsuit with the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia after the CIA failed to respond to their February 2018 request seeking all the records of communication, including but not limited to letters, emails, text messages, instant chats between former CIA Director John Brennan and or officials in the CIA Director's office on the one hand, and Senator Reid's and or members of Senator Reid's staff on the other hand regarding concerning or relating to the Christopher Steele dossier and or alleged collusion between the Trump presidential campaign and Russia. And they wanted all information from everybody. According to several congressional sources, the newly obtained documents strongly suggest that top officials at the FBI were made aware in the late summer of 2016 that they would be receiving a letter from Reid to investigate the allegations contained in the dossier. Steele's dossier was funded in part, I say in whole part, by Hillary Crooked Clinton campaign and the DNC. The dossier, which consisted of 16 opposition-style memos put together by Steele, has been at the center of the most contentious political battles on Capitol Hill and helped spur Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation into the Trump campaign's alleged collusion with Russia. It is not certain when Brennan actually learned about the dossier, but he certainly hasn't shied away from allegations made in the dossier. In March, he was asked by MSNBC's Morning Joe if Russia was blackmailing Trump. He replied, "The fact that he has had this fawning attitude towards Mr. Putin and has not said anything negative about him, it continues to say something to me that he has something to fear and something serious to fear." Really? So, in other words, he's spreading propaganda. In July, Brennan tweeted that Trump's actions during the bilateral summit in Helsinki, Finland, with Putin was treasonous. Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki rises to and exceeds the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors. It was nothing short of treasonous. Not only were Trump's comments imbecilic, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin. Republican patriots, where are you? Give it a rest, Brennan. Trump shot back at Brennan in an interview on Fox News' Tucker Carlson shortly after Brennan's tweet, saying he was not pro-Russia. I think Brennan is a very bad guy, and if you look at it, a lot of things happened under his watch. Trump said, "I think he's a very bad person." You think? Clarification: an earlier version of this story suggested Harry Reid had summoned Brennan for a separate meeting regarding Russia's interference in the election. It was not a separate meeting, but the Gang of Eight meeting, where Reid asked Brennan if he could include the information they discussed on Russia in the letter to the FBI Director Comey. Listen, they were all in cahoots on everything, and they're just rotten to the core, and they didn't want Trump in there because Trump was going to get to the bottom of a lot of the corruption that's going on. And that's basically the bottom line for all of this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.